morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm here to talk to you about Chandelure. You see, Chandelure has long been one of my favourite Pokemon. Love the design, think it's very cool. Big fan. I even tried to make the Chandelure EX work, and it didn't. It was terrible. But that's not the point. I loved it. Chandelure's my go-to in Pokken Tournament. And Chandelure always has interesting cards. Like, every Chandelure we get is interesting. I mean, whether it's the one that was really good from Noble Victories that drops damage counters, the one from Unified Minds, which lets you play Stage 2s directly onto your bench, that will be the main focus of this video, or the ones from Phantom Forces that had Fainting Spell. Pretty much all the Chandelure we've had have always been really interesting Pokemon. But we've just had a card printed, which kind of changes the game a little bit for Chandelure when combined with another card that we got a little while ago. And these are all going to survive the rotation. So we're not talking that 2-month period between Rebel Crash coming out and rotation. We are talking we're actually going to have this for a little while, at least a year. So this is kind of nice. You see, what happened was that when Rebellion Crash was revealed in Japan this past week, we were introduced to a new Lampent. And this new Lampent was big. It had an ability, now it's not an ability we haven't seen elsewhere. We actually see the same ability on Lampent, Lombre, and Luxio. Why only on Pokemon beginning with L? I think it's a coincidence, but I don't think we can rule out a little bit of whimsy on the part of the card designers. And you see, they all have the same ability, Top Entry. When you draw this card as the first card of your turn, if your bench isn't full, you may play it onto your bench before adding it to your hand. I.e., if you draw it for the turn, you can place it down straight onto your bench. Now, if during your turn you play a Welder and draw 3 cards and one of them is Lampent, you don't get to do that. You've got to draw it as your card for the turn. But then you play it down immediately onto your bench and oh look, you've got a stage 1, it's a pseudo stage 1, and that sounds really good. But then we remember we've got Duskstone, and this is a thing that neither Lombre nor Luxio has. Duskstone. Search your deck from his Magius, Honchkrow, Chandelure, or Aegislash, including GX, though we never got a Chandelure GX, which makes me very sad, that evolves from one of your Pokemon in play, and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck. And here's the key point here. You can use this card during your first turn, or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn. Now, there are ways to manipulate so we draw Lampent as our card for the turn. You can't do that on your first turn, because you haven't been able to play any cards. But theoretically here, you take your turn, your first turn of the game, draw a Lampent, play it straight down on the bench, Duskstone, and you got turn 1 Chandelure. Legitimate turn 1 stage 2. Like back in the day, and back in the day we could do this, right? Back in the day, Rare Candy did allow you to evolve from a basic up to a stage 2, even if it was your first turn or the Pokemon had only just been played. Similarly, we had Broken Time Space, a stadium that just let you evolve whenever you liked. So we used to have turn 1 Pokemon. It was kind of good. Or it was kind of good except for Machamp, which kind of ruined things for everyone, because Machamp also had an attack for 1 fighting energy that got an instant KO on any basic Pokemon, which when you could get it straight up in 1 turn was a little bit unfair. And then it got even worse with Seeker, whereby if your opponent only had 1 bench Pokemon, you can make them pick it up. Well, you've got them to pick up 1 Pokemon of their choice, but if they only had 1, they had to pick it up, and then take out their basic with Machamp. I once won a long game 1 in a city championship, only to be donked 2 turns in a row by Machamp. Cheers for that, Tommy's mum. Or Liz, as she's otherwise called. Anyway, back to Chandelure. This is awesome. This gives you speed. One of the huge downsides of Stage 2 Pokemon is that they are slower to get into play and more awkward, and it gets super annoying. But here, you draw Lampent for your turn, play a Duskstone, boom, you're done, you're rolling. Now, Lampent's ability only works if you draw it as your Pokemon for the turn. How do we fix this? Easy. Oranguru. An Oranguru means that I just don't worry at all about this. Oranguru lets you swap a card in your hand for the top card of your deck. So you basically fix your top deck. So you know what the top card of your deck is going to be. And that's basically what you do here. One of two things happens. Either you draw it for your turn, put it straight onto your bench, job's a good un. Or you draw it at any other time, and then you just use Oranguru. At which point two things happen. First, you get to just draw a card, which is awesome. And secondly, you get to then put that Lampent from your hand on top of your deck, so you guarantee to draw it next turn. And then, of course, the fact you're drawing more cards with Oranguru does make it more likely that you will then be able to draw into your Lampent when you need to, so that you can put it back on the top of your deck with Oranguru. There's other things you can use for a very brief period before it rotates out. We are going to have the Macargo from Celestial Storm, which lets you put any card from your deck on top of your deck, but just use Oranguru. And you can still search out Lampent in the usual way. You can still search it out using an Evolution Incense here, and then put it on top of your deck using Oranguru. That's absolutely fine. But what this does is it gives you a bit more speed, and it gives you a bit more consistency, and it really does work out very, very nicely indeed. So then the question becomes, what Chandelures do we actually have? Although Chandelure, you never pluralize Pokemon names. And the answer is we've got two, but we've really got one. You see, we did get a Chandelure, or I suppose Japan did get, we are going to get, in what will be Rebel Clash, but I don't particularly love it. The ability says that each of your Pokemon with any energy attached has no weakness. Meh. And the attack for 1 fire, 1 colourless energy does 110 plus confusion. And it's a fire Pokemon, so you've got Welder, so you can attach 2 energy in 1 turn. And if they don't have anything like a Metal Frying Pan on, you will get a 1-hit KO on Zacian. But if I'm honest with you, it's really not. It's not what we're looking for. It's not a good enough Pokemon. It's fun, and I love it. But it might actually be the worst Chandelure we've seen. Unless you're really worried about weakness, in which case it does become a whole lot better. Now, we do have the Chandelure from Lost Thunder. It's interesting enough. It is a psychic Pokemon, which is different to the fire, obviously. 1 psychic energy, place 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. It is nice to have a single energy attack, I grant you. And then 2 psychic energy, 20 damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon. And you can build a deck around this, and it can be a good deck, but you've got to commit to it. By which I mean you've got to be playing stuff like Roxy, the supporter card that lets you discard 2 Pokemon from your hand, draw 3 cards for each one discarded, and then you discard Coughing or Wheezing, and then you do 1 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon for each one of those discarded. And if you can discard like 2 of those, and your opponent's got 6 Pokemon out, then that's 12 damage counters, which means you're hitting 240, assuming no other damage on the board, and that's awesome. But I fear it's a little bit too combo heavy, and then you've got to be playing stuff like Oranguru and really dedicating yourself to getting it out. It can work, but it's not my favourite. My favourite is the one from Unified Minds. 1 fire energy, discard the top 5 cards of your deck, 10 damage base, 60 more for each Pokemon you discarded in this way, but any fire Pokemon you discarded can go straight onto your bench. And we've got a few options here, but there are some we like more than others. So Incineroar, huge fan. You get to do an extra 30 damage for all of your attacks, though it does not stack. Ninetales, and if you discard 2 fire energy from your hand, becomes a nice little gusting option. We've got Infernape that makes Burn do 6 damage counters rather than the usual 2 between turns. And we've got a Delphox that will burn your opponent automatically, though both the Infernape and the Delphox will be rotating fairly shortly after this all comes out. We're basically going to have a brief window, kind of 2 months, about May to 3 months, May to August, where we're going to have Rebel Clash and we're going to have pre-rotation. So, you've been warned. Honestly, the two best ones here are Ninetales and Incineroar, though there are a whole bunch of other options. Any basic will work here, but any stage 1 or 2 can kind of be cheated out. And the other thing that you really need to remember here, and it is extremely important, this will get your other Chandelure. So, if you get one Chandelure out nice and quickly using Oranguru, then you can potentially get other Chandelure out using Chandelure's attack, and that's going to make your life an awful lot easier. One of the biggest issues with Chandelure has been partly consistency and partly the fact that you've needed to play a small amount of basics and then you become very vulnerable. Here, you don't need to get a turn 1 Litwick. You don't need to get an early Litwick. All you need to do is get an early Lampent, and it doesn't even need to be that early, because you can just go Duststone as soon as you get it. You can have a turn or 2 without getting set up, or using other Pokemon, and then you can draw Lampent, play Duststone, attach Fire Energy, and you're off and rolling. That's what I love so much about this. It's the fact that you've got so many ways around it. You can still go the traditional Rare Candy route if you like, although you don't need to play Rare Candy in this deck, and honestly I'd be tempted not to. But you can then just go for Lampent, and then use Duskstone, and then use your Chandelure when it's out to get your other Chandelure out. I want Chandelure to be one of the best decks in the format because I adore Chandelure and I don't care who knows it. Whether it is or not is up for debate, but I really, really want it to be good. And the combination of this new ability combined with Duskstone really does give a phenomenal advantage that other decks just don't have. And the combination of these two cards, both of which will be around for over a year, really does give you options for Chandelure that other Pokemon don't have. And I really do think that means we need to take another closer look at it. And let's not forget that if we get any other Chandelure in the near future, and we got one in Unified Minds and one in Rebel Clash, so the Chandelure have been coming fairly regularly, it'll work for them as well. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about it. Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's going to be work? Do you think it's viable? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have any Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.